Hi there, this is David and welcome to my top 30 favorite RPGs of all time. Many people have asked me over the years what my personal favorite games are, and while I have listed my favorite games on each system, I never just listed all of my favorites at one time. So that's what I'm going to be doing here. But I'm going to be listing them in release order rather than ranking all 30 of them. And I'm probably biased because I'm an old bitch, but after compiling this list, I can safely say that they don't quite make them like they used to. Number 1. Final Fantasy Legend II, released for the Game Boy. I think that you had to have grown up in a different time to really appreciate this game. Nowadays with cell phones, I just can't imagine anyone liking this the way that I used to. But I can't tell you how much time this gem sucked up on so many of my road trips. Number 2. Final Fantasy V, released for the SNES. I think I love this entry because of the sheer replayability that it has. The amount of job classes to choose from, each with their own peculiarities, ensures that every single playthrough that you do is going to be different and have its own special magic. Number 3. Dragon Quest V, released for the SNES. This is not only mine, but the series creator's favorite entry. The story hooks you from the start, and monster capturing ensures that your party setup will be different every single time. The world is fun to explore, and thankfully, it's on the shorter side, lasting only about 20 hours. Number 4. Final Fantasy VI, released for the SNES. Can we just talk about the soundtrack here? Sometimes when I'm feeling down, I just turn it on and it brings me back to a happier place and a simpler time. It's a sign of a great game when even just something as simple as a soundtrack to an amazing game can put a smile on your face. Number 5. Phantasy Star 4, released for the Sega Genesis. Of the 4 Phantasy Star games, this is the only one that can go toe-to-toe with SNES juggernauts like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest. Sega finally figured the formula out and really should have kept the series going in this vein because it was just fantastic. Number 6. Earthbound, released for the SNES. This game broke the mold of what a JRPG could be to me. It didn't have to be medieval swords and sorcery, it could be modern day in small town America too. I guess what Earthbound taught me is to find adventure in everyday things. Number 7. Breath of Fire 2, released for the SNES. I remember having the hardest time finding this rare gem, but I am glad that I did. While the translation can be rough, the game is just so much fun. It has all the charm of late SNES era without the needless padding, slowdown, and annoying trends introduced in the PlayStation era. Number 8. Chrono Trigger, released for the SNES. This is probably my favorite game on the system, which is saying a lot because the vast majority of my favorite games are on the SNES. So this is the best of the best right here. The music, time travel, story, and care put into this masterpiece is still felt today. Number 9. Seiken Densetsu 3, released for the SNES. Secret of Mana was one of my favorite games growing up, but the sequel just blew it out of the water. The added replayability with the multiple characters and class changes just sealed the deal for me. I don't understand why Square can't make more Mana games in the same vein as this. Number 10. Dragon Quest III, released for the SNES. I want to specifically mention that the game that I'm highlighting here is the SNES remake, because it took a masterpiece on the NES and really just polished it up to shine. It's now beautiful, the music is accomplished, and the added content is just the cherry on top. Number 11. Luffia 2, released for the SNES. You have to be in the right mood to play Luffia 2. You can't just brainlessly play through this one. The puzzles are top-notch along with the music and the story. Add in the classic turn-based gameplay and you have a true winner right here. Number 12. Terranigma, released for the SNES. I got into this late in the game since it wasn't released here and I had to play it through emulation while I was in college. But this is quite the journey, following Arc's quest to revive the continents of the world, evolve mankind, and save his underworld hometown. Number 13. Final Fantasy VII, released for the PlayStation. Some people say that this game is overrated, but I don't think so. It's fantastic. The materia system is inspired, and I will be forever grateful for it bringing JRPG genre into the mainstream. Without this, we would have never gotten so many obscure JRPGs as we did on the PlayStation 1 and 2. So, we always have Final Fantasy VII to thank for that. Number 14. Lunar Silver Star Story Complete, released for the PlayStation. This game has personality, from the characters to the NPCs to just the entire world at large. Everything is humorous and full of life. And while it may not have tons of replay value, I still love to go through it on a rainy day. The game is just sheer joy encapsulated. Number 15. Final Fantasy Tactics, released for the PlayStation. This is the only tactical game on the entire list, probably because nothing else can really measure up to it. I love playing it with different self-imposed challenges and using some of the stranger jobs. It just never gets old. Number 16. Legend of Lagaya, released for the PlayStation. It's rare that a game truly tugs at my heartstrings, but this game did. It does such a good job cultivating an otherworldly atmosphere that it's easy to get lost in it. The entire world is swallowed by the mist, and it actually has consequences for you and the inhabitants. Number 17. Star Ocean 2, released for the PlayStation. I love Rena and Claude's simple yet exciting journey. The replay value is through the roof, and there's something to be said for the beautiful 2D graphics showcased. I love how much time and care they put into the worlds, unlike the trash that they release nowadays. Number 18. Final Fantasy IX, released for the PlayStation. Here we have the last Final Fantasy game on this list, and it's truly the last classic and one of the most memorable games for me. I love learning your skills through your weapons. It's genius in its simplicity, and thank God they finally brought back predefined roles for your characters. Number 19, Golden Sun 1 and 2, released for the Game Boy Advance. This might be cheating, but I can't include one without the other. They're parts of the same whole as far as I'm concerned. And I can't tell you why the unique series is just dead in the water. Let's hope for a Switch revival. The series certainly deserves it. Number 20, Grandia 2, released for the PlayStation 2. I love this series, and I love the progression system with the mana and the skill eggs, as well as the wacky characters, the beautiful scenery, the dungeon exploration, and the strategic battle system. But I feel like all those elements are at their best in this series' second outing. Number 21, Dragon Quest VIII, released for the PlayStation 2. This is the last Dragon Quest game on my list, and the one that catapulted it into the modern era as well as the mainstream. It was everything that I'd always hoped for in my favorite franchise and more. The world exploration and scenery was just everything to me. Number 22, Popolo Croix, released for the PSP. Anyone who's ever played the incredibly underrated masterpiece on the PSP knows the potential of this series. It's as if Lunar and Earthbound had a love child. I'm really just in shock that the series is relegated to obscurity, not only here, but in Japan too. Number 23, Okami, released for the PlayStation 2. There aren't many action RPGs on this list, but Okami's just so beautiful and so unique that I had to give it a spot here. I loved running around, finding all the hidden clovers, and experimenting with the calligraphy system to uncover new secrets. Number 24, Suikoden 5, released for the PlayStation 2. This is my favorite game in the series. The culmination took everything great about the previous games, but none of the drawbacks. The Queendom of Falena is expansive and a joy to explore, and a great send-off for a wonderful franchise. Number 25, Tales of Vesperia, released for the Xbox 360. I had a hard time narrowing down exactly which Tales game that I wanted to highlight on this list, but in the end it came down to the one with the best growth system, the badass protagonist, and the gorgeous world map. Man, I would suck a dick for a good world map. Number 26, Lost Odyssey, released for the Xbox 360. This is an adult's JRPG. It's not complicated, and you learn your skills through other party members and your equipment, but the plot is mature and the world is realistic. If you've been turned off by Final Fantasy lately, you might want to check out this gem. Number 27, Hexis Force, released for the PSP. This is like two games in one, and when I first picked it up, I had no idea just how much that I was going to like it. The PSP was drowning in a sea of mediocre JRPGs, but this really did rise above the rest to deliver a solid and thoroughly unique story. Number 28, Arc Rise Fantasia, released for the Wii. Normally, I don't really like hard games, but there's always exceptions to every rule. And while the bosses are brutal, the story and customization make up for it in spades. Every time I play, I discover new and surprising things about this underrated, unexplored gem. Number 29, Xenoblade Chronicles, released for the Wii. While the gameplay and story are really good, the best part of the entire game to me was just wandering around the Bionis and finding new places to see. Every time I entered a new zone, I was floored. I must have spent hours just looking around at everything. And finally, number 30, Radiant Historia, released for the Nintendo DS. This is Chrono Trigger 2.0, the sequel that we all wanted, because nobody wanted that dumpster fire Chrono Cross. The choose-your-own-adventure style is great, and the gripping story along with the grid-based battle system just gilds the lily. After compiling this list, I've gotta say, one thing that I really love in a good game is its ability to stand the test of time and the replay value. I've gotta be able to play it again and again and have a different experience every single time. So, that's it for my 30 favorite JRPGs of all time. What are your favorite RPGs of all time? Do you agree or disagree? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this video and what I do here on the channel, please consider supporting me on Patreon. The link to it can be found in the video description. This has been David. If you like this, please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good day.